There is a moment in tennis that feels almost mythical. A moment when a player hits a shot so bold, so effortless, so completely free of fear that it looks like something no one else would dare attempt. It's the flick of a wrist, the underarm serve, the laser down the line, or the casual half volley that most people wouldn't try even in practice. And behind these moments, again and again, stands Nick Kyrgios. The player who insists he doesn't care while playing tennis at a level that suggests an almost supernatural genius hiding beneath the chaos. Today's episode is about that paradox. The mystery of how someone who appears detached and uninterested can reach a level of brilliance that players who train obsessively for decades cannot touch. The emotional puzzle of why someone who says, "I don't even like tennis," can produce magic that millions dream of. And the deeper psychological truth that Kyrgios represents, not just in tennis, but in all of us. Let's start with one of the most misunderstood truths in psychology. Sometimes, not caring too much is the very thing that unlocks genius. When you don't fear failure, you can do things that the rest of us hesitate to try. When your identity isn't tied to winning, you are free to create. When you aren't suffocated by perfection, you can express yourself without restraint. And Kyrgios plays from that place, instinctive, emotional, unfiltered, unchained. Most players play to prove themselves. Kyrgios plays to feel something. But to understand him, you must understand the difference between external motivation and internal freedom. Many athletes grow up with structure, discipline, and routine. Kyrgios grew up with natural talent that came almost effortlessly. And when something comes effortlessly, it rarely feels like a choice. It feels like a destiny someone else assigned you. That creates emotional conflict, because part of you knows you're good, but another part of you resents the thing you didn't choose. And that resentment becomes what people mistake for not caring. Here's the truth. Kyrgios does care. Deeply. Painfully. Too much, even. But he cares about connection, not about status. He cares about the joy of the moment, not the discipline it takes to get there every day. He cares about expressing himself, not impressing others. And because he doesn't chase validation, he doesn't carry the suffocating pressure most players do. And that lack of pressure creates freedom. And that freedom creates brilliance. But why is he so inconsistent? Why does he self-destruct? Why does he show up one day like a future world number one and disappear the next? To answer that, we have to talk about fear. Not the obvious fear of losing, but a deeper fear, the fear of commitment. For some people, true commitment feels like a trap. If they give their whole heart to something, they fear losing control. They fear disappointing themselves. They fear the emotional responsibility that comes with giving everything. And so they stay half in, half out. They joke. They shrug. They keep people guessing. They hide behind indifference because indifference protects the heart. If you don't try your hardest, you never truly fail. If you don't commit fully, you never have to face the possibility of your best not being enough. This is the emotional armor Kyrgios wears. He plays brilliantly when he feels free, when the stakes are low, when the pressure is removed, when expectations disappear. In those moments, his talent flows like water, fluid, effortless, breathtaking. But when he is expected to win, when responsibility enters the picture, when the match becomes about proving something rather than expressing something, the weight becomes unbearable. And the same freedom that creates brilliance collapses into frustration. This is the Kyrgios paradox. The mindset that unlocks his genius is the same mindset that prevents consistency. But here's the part that makes the story universal. So many people live this same paradox, not in tennis, but in life. We are brilliant when we feel free. We are creative when no one is watching. We are bold when nothing is on the line. But the moment expectations show up, we shrink. We sabotage. We protect ourselves. We hide behind humor, detachment, or chaos because vulnerability is terrifying. Kyrgios is not a mystery. He is a mirror. He shows us what it looks like to have immense potential but a complicated relationship with discipline. He shows us the pain of being loved for something you aren't sure you ever chose. He shows us the conflict of wanting to shine but fearing what comes with shining. He shows us the emotional cost of feeling misunderstood, judged, or pressured to be something more. And he shows us what happens when freedom becomes both your superpower and your weakness. Now let's talk about motivation. Most athletes grow up with extrinsic goals, titles, rankings, achievements, approval. Kyrgios never cared about that. Not because he's rebellious, but because those things never touched him emotionally. His motivation is internal, emotional, spontaneous. He thrives on energy, crowds, moments, emotion, electricity. He plays best when he feels alive, not when he follows a plan. This makes him spectacular in chaotic environments. Wimbledon crowds, late-night matches, emotional battles, but deeply uncomfortable in structured ones. And that discomfort gets mistaken for laziness. But it's not laziness. It's emotional mismatch. Kyrgios is wired for impact, not routine. He is wired for the moment, not the season. When motivation is emotional rather than structured, genius appears unpredictably. And this unpredictability makes the world underestimate the mental patterns behind his brilliance. It's easy to say he doesn't care. It's harder to admit that caring too much, in the wrong way, can break a person. Kyrgios manages that pain with humor, with detachment, with unpredictable behavior that shields him from judgment. But behind all the noise is a simple truth. He plays like a genius because he plays without fear. And he struggles because he lives with fear. Fear of commitment. Fear of expectations. Fear of emotional exposure. Fear of not living up to his own talent. This is not drama. It is human psychology. And maybe this is why so many people connect with him. Because Kyrgios represents a part of ourselves we don't want to admit exists. The part that is capable of brilliance, but scared of the responsibility that brilliance demands. The part that wants freedom more than perfection. The part that hides behind humor when overwhelmed. The part that resists commitment because commitment makes vulnerability real. Kyrgios is not the villain. He is not the savior. He is not the clown. He is not the rebel. He is simply human. And his humanity shows on court more visibly than almost any other player. Now, here is your CTA. If this episode made you rethink Kyrgios, not as a headline, but as a human being, subscribe for more deep tennis psychology content that goes beneath the surface. Share this with someone who always argues about Kyrgios. They might finally understand what makes him so complex. And in the comments, tell me honestly, do you see parts of yourself in him? Because many people do, even if they don't say it out loud. And here is your closing message. Genius does not always look disciplined. Potential does not always look structured. Brilliance does not always look polished. Sometimes it looks messy, emotional, chaotic, conflicted, and yet still undeniable. Kyrgios teaches us that talent is not a straight line. It's a storm, a fire, a fragile, beautiful thing that shines brightest when it's free. And maybe the lesson is this. You don't have to fit the mold to be extraordinary. You just have to understand the part of you that fears commitment, the part that craves freedom, and the part that knows you were born with something rare, whether or not you choose to use it every day.